B'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we begin Perek Esrim, the 20th Perek in the Rambam's Hilchos Issurei, the laws of forbidden relationships, which in the previous Parakim we've been discussing the unique halachas of the forbidden relationships that relate specifically to Kahanim, and in that theme, in that vein, the Rambam continues in this Perek regarding the presumption of Kahanim and their Kahanic state and the Yichus that's related to that. As the Rambam begins Halacha Aleph, he discusses the status of Kahanim Bizman Hazeh, in today's times. As the Rambam says, Kol Kahan Bizman Hazeh, all Kahanim in these days, meaning when there's no more Mizbeach, no more Sanhedrin, B'chazakahim Kahanim. We presume there's a chazaka that they are Kahanim, and with that chazaka, because we don't have any definitive criterion anymore that we continue to evaluate Kahanim as they did in the days of the Beis Hamikdash, and so we have a chazaka that they're Kahanim, ve'ein oichel el b'kachek gvul. So, although that they have chazakas, they can only go ahead and eat what's called the kachim, the holy things that are related to the boundaries, meaning that are only eaten in Eretz Yisrael, but they're not uniquely to the Beis Hamikdash and Yerushalayim, which that refers to truma and things like that. V'hu, and then a shatiyah truma shel devreim. But this is only regarding rabbinic truma, because about truma shel Torah, but regarding biblical truma, which certain things are by dog and tirish v'yitzar, those are biblical. All the other types of trumas are all rabbinic. Regarding biblical truma of a challah shel Torah and the biblical challah, which is to take up a certain portion of the dough, that could only be eaten a kohen that has been established his lineage that he is distinctively a kohen. As Rambam says in Halacha Beis Ezel Kohen Miyuchas, what's considered a defined kohen that he has the status of a kohen? Is Kol She'idu Le'Shnei Eidim Shu Kohen Ben Ploini HaKohen. Two witnesses testified that he's a kohen, the son of that person a kohen, U'Ploini Ben Ploini HaKohen, and that person the son of that person a kohen. Ad Ish in the Tzarech B'dika, going all the way back up until a person that we don't need to inspect. Because he's like a kohen that did the service on the altar in the Beis Hamikdash. Because had it been that the great court had not done inspection on that great grandfather who did the avodah in Beis Hamikdash, they would never have let him do the avodah. Therefore, we don't have to check a kohen that we knew was a great grandfather from Mizbeach and onward. Neither do we have to check further up from someone who sat on the Sanhedrin, because they never appoint someone on the great court, only if it's a Kohen Levi Yisrael that has a yichus, that has a pure lineage, and therefore you have to check at least as far back if one of his grandfathers had been on the Sanhedrin, or in the case of a Kohen, regarding that he did Avodah Mizbech. Now, Halacha Gimel says the Rambam, Chal B'zman Hazeh, regarding Chal in today's times, that Philip Eretz Yisrael, even in Eretz Yisrael, in the Torah, because we said only Chal or Truma of rabbinic law could the Kohen consume. So Challah in today's times, even Eretz Yisrael, is initial Torah, it's not biblical. Shneim, like it says in the pasuk, b'vayachem el haaretz. The pasuk says in Bamidbar, when you come into land, meaning b'vayachem is bias kulchem, when all of you come, v'lei bias miktaschem, not when some of you come. When they came up in the times of the second Beis Hamikdash, the days of Ezra, not all of Judaism, not all of Jewish people came up. And actually, Truma even today's times too is also Shal Dibur Seif, but is also of rabbinic law. And Lefikach, therefore, in today's time could eat all Truma Shem Chazaka again, because if they have a Chazaka that they're Kahanim, then they can partake of that which is rabbinically, which is Truma B'zman Hazeh and which is Chal B'zman Hazeh. Now Halacha Dalet. Let's say two witnesses testify regarding a person that they saw him eating biblical Truma. That would go ahead and give him a status of yichus that he is clearly a kohen. But we cannot elevate to the status of yichus to give him the clear status of a kohen to get married as a kohen. Not from the fact that he did birchas kohenim, not that he got the first aliyah by the kriyas haTorah, not from the fact that he was given out a portion of truma by the granary. Neither can you ever have, no matter what he's testifying, if it's based on one witness. Now, related, the Rambam says in Halacha Hey, regarding the trustworthiness that a father has regarding his son, if we have a kohen that has yichus, that says, this, my son, is a kohen, we would not elevate the son to the status of yichus of a kohen based on what the father is saying. He has to first bring proof that he's his son, then he would get that status because he's the son of his father, who he's saying is a kohen. Now, Halacha Vav. Now, related halachas related to this idea. If you have a kohen that's yichus that he went out, him and his wife, which we know that she's also kshera, that they went out to another country. Now they came back with a bunch of kids wrapped around them. He says, the wife that I went out with back then, this is that woman. And these are her children. So in it doesn't have to bring witnesses loyally, not on the woman and not on the children. Because the woman we knew was kosher, and these are the children, because like we see how they're chasing after the mother, and we know that he was a miyuchas too. But let's say it says Mesu now. Let's say it says, oh, she passed away when we went to that other country. Now these are her sons. He has to bring witnesses that these are her children. And it doesn't have to bring witnesses on the mother that she's kosher. We know when she left over here, she had a chazaka that she was isha kshera. All we have to do is bring proof that these are the children of that woman. Halacha zayin. Let's say a single kohen that has yichus went out to another country, and then he comes back years later, him, his wife, his children, he says, this is the woman I married, and these are her children. So he has to bring proof. He has to bring a proof that this woman is a kosher woman for him to marry. Obviously, his children cannot have the status of the yichus if the woman is inappropriate for him to marry. But it doesn't have to bring witnesses. These are our children. Again, this is only if they're wrapped around her. We can obviously tell that this is the mother and these are the children. Now, if the Mabashtei comes back with two wives, has bring proof regarding one of them. Although the children are small and they're wrapped after that one, he would have to bring proof regarding the children. Because maybe it's the children of the other woman, and they happen to be just because the two women are in the house at all times. It's not necessarily that this is the right mother, and they just happen to be chasing after the one that is miyuchesses, and he would still have to bring proof then regarding the children. Let's say him and his sons come, and he says, says, I got married overseas. You guys didn't see me before I got married. I left before I was married. I got married to a woman. She died, and these are her sons. So maybe Eidim Shaisa Ishak Sherhay. So he has to bring proof. He has to bring witnesses that that woman that he married was a kosher, and that these are her sons. Says the Rambam, the same thing applies. This halacha applies to to qualifying that of a Yisrael that's miyuchas and leib miyuchas to and then you could testify regarding the son that is miyuchas. So that again, the same equivalency that we're saying for the mizbech for a kohen would be the same thing for a Yisrael or a Levi to have the status to be appropriate for the Sanhedrin, to know that they are miyuchas, that they have the untainted lineage that's necessary for the Sanhedrin. Now halacha test. Says the Rambam, you cannot elevate from documentation to a status of a kahuna. As Rambam says, Kitzad Haso. It was written in a document, Ploini Kohen, love him Ploini. That person, a Kohen, borrowed from that person. And he lent him this and this. Witnesses on the bottom. You're not going to establish that this Kohen is a miyuchas. Because you have two witnesses on the bottom, maybe the witnesses are only testifying regarding the loan, but not to verify that this person was a kohen. They just happen to have written that as his title. Now, when we say this linear yichus, it's regarding, like we're saying, regarding the laws of yichus to establish the clear status of this person as a kohen. But regarding establishing a presumption regarding a kohen, like in the halach of kalim in today's times, and to eat truma and challah that's rabbinic, all other halachas of truma that are related to the boundaries, then you could actually elevate someone from a documentation and based on the witnesses of one witness's testimony, and from the fact that someone went to Duchen, he had the Birchas Kanim by the elevation of the palms, and getting from the first aliyah by the Torah. For today's halachas, that would be sufficient. And that, unlike the prior halachas of what yichus was, for the halachas of unique to the kahanim. Halacha yud. B'chein kol kohen shama. So to any kohen that says b'ni ze kohen, this my son is a kohen, neman lachil truma, he's trusted to feed his son truma, v'liyesa b'chesker kohen, to be a presumption of kohen. V'edet tzarich lavi right, doesn't have to bring proof of l'alabanim, not on the son of Elisha, and not on his wife. Now halacha yadav, the Rambam continues regarding what happens if they're colluding. Because we said Eid Echad could be sufficient if two people testify for each other, and also the halacha of Masich Lefi Tumah, if someone just does it innocently without realizing that they're doing it based on what he's saying. It says Ramaloch Yid Alf, Shnaim Shabal Medina. Two people come to a country. This one says, Ani v'chaver kohen. Me and my friend here is a kohen. The other one says the same thing. Ani v'chaver kohen. Me and my friend are a kohen. Although it looks like they're colluding as if they're helping each other out, they're trusted. And both of them have a presumption of being a kohen, as Rambam says previous halacha test, that we machzik someone as a kohen on based on Pied Echad, which each one has his other friend as an Eid Echad. A witness says, I saw this person doing the Sis Kapayim. He's eating Truma, or he's getting a portion by the granary. Or he get the first Ali by the Kris Torah, and after him came a Levi, because actually if a Levi doesn't come after that, the fact that he got the first Ali is not a right that it's a Kain, because maybe he got it because he was the greatest of them all, and there was no Levi after that. So, but if this he got the first Ali and afterwards a Levi, based on what he's saying, you can presume this person is a Kain. Also, similar would be, if let's say they said he got the second Levi after a Kain, then you could presume that he's a Levi, which is to then give him the halacha of Ma'aser Rishon. Halacha Yud Beis. However, says Rambam, let's say that someone testifies, says, I was at a court case where him and his brother were dividing the truma that the father left over who died, who was a Kain. You would not elevate him to a kuna based on this testimony. Maybe this son is a chal, and he was taking the portion of the inheritance of the truma to sell it, but not to eat it because he's actually a chal. It's forbidden in truma. The fact that he's dividing the inheritance is not a raya that he has the appropriate status of a kain. If someone comes today's times and he says, "Koin only, I'm a koin," any of them is not believed. We don't elevate him to the status of a kuna based on his own word. And Rishon doesn't get the first aliyah, doesn't duchen, doesn't eat from the kachim that are in the boundaries of Eretz Yisrael, until he has at least one witness. But, based on what he said, he makes it forbidden on himself to marry a grusha, not become tummy to dead people because of Shabbat Nafshech. He said that he is a kain. If he gets married or becomes a tummy, like he even gets lashes because he already established that chazaka based on his own words, so he gets punished. Now, if an Avel slave, a woman has Biah with him, Sveik Chalala, she's in doubt if she's a Chalala because, again, we don't know for sure that this person is a Kain. To have that Isser Kuna, to say that the woman would have a Halacha b'Chalala, it would be at most a doubt if she's a Chalala. Now, let's say the person was innocently saying what's called talking based on innocence, Neman, then the person is actually believed to have a presumption that he's a Kain, to eat from Kachik Gvul, which is no less than that of like an Eid Echad, as Rambam said, halacha test. As Rambam says, how so? How could a person himself be Mesichli B'tumai to give himself the status of a Kain? So there's Ma'aser Be'echad, there was a story, Subis brings this story, an individual, he was instantly saying over a story, and he said, he says, I remember when I was a child, that I was riding on my father's shoulders. He took me out of yeshiva, out of the study hall, which that's just a proof that he's not an eved, because an eved of a kohen is also permitted to eat truma. So the story wouldn't be definitive, but the fact that he was coming out of yeshiva, which a person not allowed to teach a slave Torah, proves that he was a son, not an eved. V'hifshituni kutanti, and he took off my clothing, v'piluni, and he had me toivel in the mikvah, le'echel truma l'erev, to eat truma that evening. My friends used to stay away from me so that they don't contaminate his truma. They used to call me Yichnu who eats the chalas, which one of the matnas kahuna. The hello, Rabbi HaKadosh HaKun Al Piatzma. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi elevated him to the status of Kuna based on his own words, because he wasn't doing it for the purpose of saying, I'm a Kohen. He was just saying over a story from his youth. And he said, you are a Kohen, based on what he said. An adult is believed to say, I remember when I was a young boy, I saw that person taivel and to eat shum in the evening, and they established that person that he's talking about in this kuna based on his testimony. Now, if someone comes in today's times and he says, I'm a Kohen, and one witness testifies for him, I know that his father is a Kohen, we're not going to elevate him to the status of a Kohen based on their testimony, because maybe this son, maybe his father was a Kohen, but maybe he is a Chal, where his mother was inappropriate based on Kuna to marry his father. Now, the reason why we say that over here is because since the father didn't have a Chazaka that is a Kohen, only with one aid, so we are concerned for the son that even though we don't have a rumor, but maybe he was the son of a Grusha or Chalal. Until he testifies regarding this person himself that he's a Kohen Kasher. Now, let's say the father already before Eid Echad, the father had a Chazaka that he was a regular Kohen. Or at least two witnesses come along and testify that the father was a Kohen. Oh, then he has the presumption of his father. We don't suspect that he's a Chal, and then he's going to be kosher as a Kohen. Now, look at the Zayin Ram continues regarding a doubt regarding a Kohen based on either what words we're hearing or regarding a mixture. As Rabbi says, if someone has a chazaka, his father was a Kohen, The Yatzel of Kosher ben Grusha or Chalutza, but words going out that yes, father's a Kohen, but his father married a Grusha or Chalutza, so Cheshla were concerned for that. And we so we demote their son from the status of Kohuna. Now, but let's say subsequently a single witness comes along, and he testifies no that he's kosher, he's not a ben Grusha ben Chalutza. Then, based on, as we said previously, on one witness, we would elevate him to the status of a kuna based on that one witness. Now, let's say but then let's say subsequently after that, two witnesses come along and testify and says that no, he is a chalul, his mother was a grusha or a chalutza. The marinas from the kuna, then we subsequently demote him from the status of a kuna. Then let's say then let's say subsequently another one witness comes along and testifies no that he is kosher. Then we'd actually would again re-elevate him to the status of a Kohen. And the reason for this is because this later one witness combines with the first one witness, and both of them are testifying that he's kosher. Now we have two witnesses in the middle that said that he's possible. So the two witnesses cancel each other out and rejects the rumors that are going around about him. And the reason is why they cancel out Sheshnaim Kamei, because two is like 100. And the Kohen remains with the chazak of his father. And the reason is because when you have two opposite two, so then we retain the two witnesses cancel themselves out, we remain with the chazaka, and we're not concerned for the rumors when there are witnesses. So although there are other witnesses contradicting these witnesses, but ultimately there were witnesses and he has chazaka, so therefore we're not going to be concerned with the rumors, and he's going to retain the status of a kohen as his father was. Let's say a woman didn't wait 3 months as she's supposed to do after her first husband, and she gave birth, whether divorced or whether widowed. Now, now you don't know the child that's born when she got married to the second husband. It's 7 months when she got married to him, but it's within 9 months from the first husband. So you don't know who's the father. And the first one was a kain, the second one was Yisrael, or is a kain? He's a suffix, he was a kain. And similarly, in this blood kain, blood Yisrael, let's say by the child ward, in the birthing ward, the children got mixed up. The child of a kain, child of Yisrael. The Gdil al-Rebbe's, and these two boys, they grow up, but we're not sure which one's the kain, which one's the Yisrael. Each one is a doubtful kain. You have to put on each one of them a string of being a non-kain and a kain, which is they have to marry women that are only appropriate for kuna. Can't marry Gurusha and so on. They can't become tummy to dead people like a kain. But they can't eat truma because maybe they're not a kain. And if they did marry divorcee, you make them divorce. Because, again, it's a suffix deraisa, but they don't get lashes because ultimately it's a suffix, and you can't give biblical lashes when you're not sure the person violated the Isser. If you have two kahanim that their children got mixed up, or in another case, or again, we're talking about here, unlike the other case of Kohen Yisrael, here they're both kahanim. Or the wife of a Kohen, didn't wait 3 months from her first husband, she got married to another Kohen. Now, you do in Ben Tish Larish Ben Javalach, and you don't know if this is a 9-month baby from the first husband or a 7-month baby from the second husband. So, you're going to put on the child the string of both of them. Meaning, we know the child's a kain, because either father was a kain, of either of the cases that we described. But, what do you mean the string of both of them? Hu Ein Alein. He has the status of an Einin, which can't do that. But there's certain things when one of them dies, out of doubt. They have a status of Einin on him, because that might be their child. Now, but the string also goes, Hu Ein Metamal Lahem. If one of them dies, he cannot be metamal to them, because maybe it's not his father, and he could only be metamal himself to one of the 7 relatives. They cannot be metamal themselves to him. Now, moreover, this kind, we don't know which, there's 24 groups that the kind would go, every week would be another mishmer. We don't know who's his father to know which mishmer goes in. So he goes in either one of the mishmeris, but he does not divide the portions which the Khan would get portions of it. He doesn't divide. And the reason why is because each one of the mishmerim could claim and say, bring proof that you're from our mishmer, and then you can take. That you can prove that you're from our group. Now, but let's say both these fathers were from the same group, from the same week, and from the same family, therefore they're from the same day of the week, then they'll take one portion, because this is my day, whichever one is the father. Now, halacha test. But when do we say the previous halacha is when this relationship was coming from a marital relationship, where we said the mother, she didn't wait the required 3 months, but again, the relationship she had with the first man and the second man was that of marriage, and we don't know who's his real father. That's when we'll say, okay, we'll have the doubts, but he'll be able to go to that chabura, it just won't divide. But let's say this relationship that we have this doubt was by a promiscuous relationship. Oh, then the sages decreed that we silence him from any halacha of kuna at all. and he doesn't get to go into Mishmar, and let's say you knew for sure that it was from that Beis Av that he'd be able to divide. No, he doesn't get anything at all. Because he does not know definitively who's his father. Shlomo says, there should be for him and his children after that, meaning until the children will be have the distinct lineage after him. So by the case of marriage, where you don't know, but at least it's through marital or permitted relationship, okay, then we'll go with the suffix. But here, where it wasn't even a marital relationship, it was his nose, then we're not going to have him anything to do with Gehun at all. Now, Allah Chachaf says, how so? What would the case be? Asar Kahanim, there's 10 Kahanim, so the only Kahanim, and one of them left the group and had relations with this woman. Shahari Volod Kohen Vada here, the child's most definitely a Kohen, and even so, since he doesn't know who his father is, to know his appropriate lineage, we sound him from the laws of Kuhuna. He doesn't do the avodah, doesn't eat, he doesn't divide the portions. Now, but if he becomes tummy to a dead person or he marries a grusha, he's going to get lashes. Because obviously there's no doubt regarding him being permitted. It's not like a case where we're not sure if the father has a kohen Yisrael that he's not going to give him lashes. Even though for sure he's a kohen. So for sure he has the Isurim. Since he does not know the yichus, therefore they Rabbanan made a gezerah that he shouldn't have any of the benefits of that of Kuhuna, like doing avodah and eating from the kachim and from dividing of the kachim.